Jean and Michele are mother-daughter. Yeah, shoot. I don't know what to tell you that's not already in the video. God, I hate to spoil it. I don't think anybody here, did anybody ever get to go to Gray Davis Nursery? You got to go?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm married too.
Okay. So we're the only three that ever got to visit.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
No more. Yeah, but
No,
they were closing.
Yeah, everybody else I talked to has never got to see it. So to see it in person was kind of a big deal back when I started growing Eppies, because they were the largest. They were, even as far as square footage goes, they were bigger than even Rainbow Gardens. Yeah. And the amount of plants that they packed in were a lot. I talked to Michele today, and at the height of the nursery, they had about 5,000 different plants. So, as far as the program goes, the rest of it's in there. I've got a little bit of a slideshow presentation, just because I know so many people never got to see the nursery at all. Well, unfortunately, Michele has moved 3 or 4 times since they closed the nursery, and she has absolutely no idea where any of her photos are at. So we don't have a ton of photos of what the nursery looked like, but I did reach out to some folks down in San Diego, and luckily Pat Neal had visited in '93 and took some photos, and she was gracious enough to send some to me so I could show you guys what the nursery actually looked like. For ESA business, I forgot his name again for next month.
Brent Wiggins.
Brett Wiggins is going to do a presentation on
Trichocereus echinopsis.
what she said. We've had him here before. It's always a good show, so plan on attending.
And he's
for
going to
next
bring
month.
plants for sale.
And he's gonna bring up some plants for sale. So those of us that can't seem to not buy plants, bring your wallets with you. And then on May 18th will be our flower show. A change for this year: the flower show and sale together is only going to be one day. We're only going to do it on Sunday this year. We're not going to have a Saturday-Sunday combo.
So May 18th.
Yep. And a side note for those that like going down to South Bay, they just put an email out, I believe it was today or yesterday. They're going to be meeting at the Torrance Airport now. No longer, they will not have any functions at the South Bay Garden any longer. The South Bay Gardens is not working with any plant societies anymore.
Oh yeah, they have waited.
Yeah, they've put in a bunch of light shows and stuff down there, and they've figured out that they can make money doing that. So they basically told all the societies that were working out of there, adios. So, but
Is that going to happen here eventually?
we thought it might, but I think the people in charge here are still plant enthusiasts. So they are still more about the agriculture and horticulture than the profitability, but you have seen it here too. And the one thing is since COVID, all them light shows and stuff like that, every fairground's done it, every raceway, every garden's done it. Now the attendance for those things are dropping like flies. So until they come up with the new latest and greatest moneymaker thing, they're holding on to us. So we'll get to it, and if anybody has any questions, just shout out. The video portion of it is about 42 minutes long. The slideshows are just a couple minutes, and once I do the slides, I'll have to switch it over to the video.
You want the ice cream out?
Yeah, I better do that. And this interview was taken by Jim in 2005. Wow. And this is the first time it's ever been seen by anybody. It's an amazing thing.
So Michelle said she's never even seen the video that Jim took.
Matter of fact, I have to send a copy of it to Michele Davis because Michele Davis hasn't even seen it. So this is Jean and Michele. Michele is the young one on the left, and Jean, her mother, is on the right. And I believe that is a plant of trapeze that they're standing next to. And for those that never got to go, they were down towards San Diego. And where they were located, they were kind of warm like we are. Santee does not get a lot of the sea breeze, so their growing environment was more like what we have here versus what the people down in San Diego do. So this is how you bought Eppies when I started. A printed catalog with a few photos in it, and you can see there that basically as soon as they printed these catalogs, they had to go through and stamp them sold out and then mail them. Jean was kind enough to send me these last two catalogs. I was going to bring them here, and it's Jim's fault, I forgot them. And this is their sales area. And this was only a portion of the sales area. The actual sales area was probably 2 to 3 times bigger than what you see in the photo. And this is their grafting house. Just about everything they did, they put on a graft. The few plants that they grew that weren't on grafts, they put them in, I want to say 5-gallon containers with tomato cages. And they didn't hang a whole lot of plants. Usually the only plants they had hanging were the ones they were selling. Most of everything they grew upright. But you can see, especially in this photo, you can see the one up there, you can see basically how putting Eppies on a plantain cactus for grafts basically puts them on steroids. And the pink flower is named after Michele Davis. She always favored pink flowers, so when it came time to name one after her, that's what they chose. That is it for the slides. Unfortunately, I was hoping to get some that would show you more of their property. From the house to the shade houses and the graft house, there was a little bit of elevation drop. So when photos were taken from the house, you could see out and you could see all the graft houses and the shade, the sales shade house and everything like that. And it was pretty big. Yes, they're going to explain that in the video too. Michelle's father and her husband built all of the graft houses and the shade houses.
You're going to be doing that for 6 hours? Okay. We're at where we Gene and Michele from Grady Davis Nurseries. It's October the 22nd, 2005, which is a Saturday. So, Michele, Gene, can you tell us something about yourself first before we get started?
So I'm supposed to talk? Okay. Yeah, my name is Jean Gray. I'm the mother of Michele Davis. And my husband has passed away. I have 4 kids, a son in Germany, a daughter in Florida, and 2 daughters locally here in Lakeside, San Diego area.
You can name your daughters with me.
Oh my God. Okay. This is Michele. I have Linda, the oldest daughter. Brandon, my youngest, and the rest came after Michele. So, now you can help us with.
I'm Michele Davis, and
You're married to Jim.
my husband's name is Jim, and
Just stay on that.
animals. I'm an animal person, and the way we got into Epiphyllums was my mother had a heart attack and bypass surgery, and they suggested that she have 1 week. She quit working and decided her husband was going to be Epiphyllums, and I was the one that helped her recover from her surgery, and so I got interested in that things at the same time. My original interest was in growth. We started out with Mom buying big plants, and I couldn't afford the big plants, so I bought cuttings. And I had 500 cuttings in 3-inch pots that I would go out and walk through every morning and drink my coffee and watch them grow. And that's what fascinated me about them, was that each one was unique. And I enjoyed watching the plants. And I didn't even care if they bloomed. That was just a bonus. How did you get started?
I got started by seeing my first study at a local nursery that was in bloom. And I just was fascinated. It was such a pretty purple flower. And it turned out to be,
Evidently, Bill.
yeah, very quick corner of Bill. And I took it home, hung it up in my patio, and the thing didn't bloom the next year. So I called a local radio station and asked the grower there about it, to give it more light. I did. And next year it bloomed.
However, it turned out to be, it was a bloomer that won't get rid of.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Right. Yeah, it wasn't a good bloomer. It was a beautiful flower, but it didn't have a lot of blooms. It didn't bloom really good. But found out there was a society in town, and got Michele was with me. And we went to one of the,
I think we went to the mother station.
Mother Station.
Yeah.
And,
What year is this?
oh, 5, 3, 4, 83, somewhere in there, early 80s. And,
82, we bought our first plants.
oh, okay. How come you found
Because
out?
I moved to Washington.
Oh, okay. And so we both got started, and they had a cutting table at that time where you could buy raffle tickets and get cuttings. And so we ended up buying a whole string of tickets and getting a lot of cuttings. We'd go home with maybe 30 cuttings a piece. I got like a huge chair.
It was a ritual.
Yeah.
You'd come home from the meeting and you would list each cutting that you had, and then you would look them up in the directory and see what the description of them was, and you would get all excited because you had this one. And so you wrote the description down, and we had actual index cards.
Index cards with
Yes.
each one on it, and then we found pictures of other people's catalogs to put on the cards. And we had a
And in between the meetings, we would go around to the nurseries to buy more.
So I learned how to take the pictures, and finally got to the point where we had all of our places filled with plants. My husband had to build another shade house, and Michele had to build another shade house.
Well, we enclosed the entire backyard and around the side of the house with the shade house. And then we had to build another one on the other side of the house. So we had, what, 1,500 of these?
I think about it.
And
I had 700.
and it wasn't going away. The habit, the hobby were not going away. So
Every time we keep doing it, we had to have
when Jean decided to sell his entire collection, Mother said, I want it. And so we had 3,000 more. And we had no shade houses to put them in. So we had to catalog. Oh my goodness, we spent a whole summer cataloging all of the epis that Jean had. And we lettered and numbered every pot that he had. And wrote down in a book what they were, so that we would know what everything was. If the tag was lost or whatever, we would have a record of every pot. And brought them all here, and they had no place to go, no shade house. They sat in the side yard with shade cloth over them, just over the plants, because there was no shade house yet. Then my husband, my father, and my brother proceeded to build a shade house. It was the cart before the horse. And they spent, for a month at least, 2 months probably, building the shade house. And before they could get the mystery system in, my father passed away. And
But he had wanted you to Jim.
his dream was that we would go into business.
And give him an extra bit of income and get him retired.
Yeah.
So,
And so,
at the beginning,
then we had to get everything into the shade house. We had to figure out how many of each thing we had, because there were several things that were multiples. And cut back on the things that were duplicates. And repot every single plant, because a lot of the plants were in 2-pound coffee cans that had rusted, and they had a wire hanging over them that was rusted because it was an old coat hanger. And they had used a bottle opener to punch holes in the bottom of the coffee can. And so we had to repot and repot and repot and repot. We spent, what, 2 years? Yeah, we spent a good 2 years just doing that, waiting for things to bloom, trying to decide whether it was right or not. Researching, doing all the stuff we needed to do to make sure that what we had was the right thing. And then, one day, we had a black frost. And we lost a third of it. We got to the black frost.
he was still outside. the
Up to
shade.
that point, we hadn't had frost any winters that we had. And this was something new. And we didn't know to that point that we were going to have to cover everything with plastic and heaters. As of that year, we had to start using 6mm plastic and covering the shade house. And all the shade houses around my house and on the other side, everything had to be covered. Became a winter ritual. In November, the 3rd week in November, every year we had to cover with plastic. Then we had to get propane heaters. And we had to buy 50-gallon drums of kerosene in November to heat the shade houses. Never knowing from one winter to the next if we were going to have another black frost, if it was going to be a serious frost or a light frost, how much kerosene we were going to need that winter, if we actually needed the plastic that winter or not. It had to be covered anyway. Well, in San Diego, in the wintertime, especially in these county have 80 degrees with 6mm plastic over your shade house. Now you're having to raise the sides of the plastic. During the day, you run out in the morning before it gets too hot and you raise the plastic. As soon as 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon comes, the sun starts going down, you've got to be there to lower the plastic every evening. And you have to set up heaters, make sure they're filled with kerosene, and get them all ready. We had thermostats for the heaters, so we can control pretty much what temperature we get to.
50.
Yeah, first shades of 50.
Next.
And it's too warm.
It had been so warm that they didn't work.
Yeah, so we know that they require at least 40 degrees to bloom. From then on, it was 40 degrees on the thermostat. Each thing was trial and error that as we went along, we learned what plants like what plants could tolerate cold, what plants couldn't tolerate cold, what could tolerate heat. Because there are so many extremes in Lakeside and East County, you're tested constantly on your growing ability. And by the time 1980, I think it was 1986 rolled around, it was $500 a year for plastic. It was another $500 a year for kerosene. And each time you bought a heater, it was another, what was it, $200 or something for the heaters that we got from thermostats. And so the hobby was becoming so expensive that we ended up saying, okay, we either get rid of at least half of the stock that we've got, or we go into business. We have to make a decision.
Oh, and then on top of that, there was a fellow in the airways that I knew by the name
What are you talking about? Me again.
of, that started your scratch out.
Oh, Charlie?
Charlie Cruz.
Yeah.
And
Well, we were donating up to that point. We'd already been donating quite a bit for the Mother's Day show. Heavily contributing for the Mother's Day show, just as hobbyist for the cuttings. And Charlie came over one day, and he was doing the pickup for all of the cuttings for the Mother's Day show. And he said, I've got an offer to make you. Okay, what is it? Well, we don't have that many donations coming in of cuttings, and what I'd like to do is I'd like you guys to graft some of the things that everybody really likes, mainly the 50 crosses. And I'll give you cuttings of the 50s to graft. All you gotta do is graft them, and then we can take cuttings from them at showtime so that we'll have enough of the cuttings that people want. I said, sounds like a plan. So we started a graft house. It had 5 rows, and Jim got involved. Up to that point, my husband hadn't been involved in it. He was interested in growing food, not flowers. Flowers are just pretty here. There's nothing practical about them, but he decided he would try this grafting. So he went around and he talked to probably 6 different people anyway about how they grafted. He got a way to graft from Ecclehurst. He got a way to graft from Ed at Beans. He got George French. He went to all the people. Finally went and tried their little idea of how to graft each time, and nothing was taken. Ethel had this peculiar way of sticking a cutting in the middle of a pad. And for some reason, every once in a while they take. The cambium layer has to be lined up with the cambium layer. That's the only way you can graft. It's a basic way that you graft, regardless of what it is, whether it be an epi or a tree. And for some reason, she would stick that thing in the center of a pad, and she would look out. There'd be enough of a curve to the tip of it, I think, that it would connect to the cambium layer at the outside edge of the opuntia. And her graft would grow. Anyway, Jim tried that. No, didn't work. So he finally went to Lois and Bob Burks, and asked them how Bob grafted, because he had a lot of grafts. And Bob took him aside, showed him how to graft, and Jim came home and tried it, and bingo, success. He actually had probably 95% success with grafts. He was better than anyone I've ever seen graft. Rarely did anything take he tried grafting. Well, we ended up with grafts everywhere. I mean, we had 2 and 3 different things growing on one pad. The house was 5 rows, and we were growth everywhere. We were donating to the wild animal park. We were donating to everybody. We had growth everywhere, and we were wholesaling to Germany. It was unbelievable the growth that we had. And one in particular, we were in sales. We had enough growth to supply the world. And so we decided that this was what we were going to try to do. Yeah. So then was the problem. We had to come up with a way to sell them.
My next question. What were your avenues for selling your hobby?
And that's when Mom came in.
What?
Yeah, catalogs.
Oh. So,
That was a lot of work for us.
yeah,
A lot of work.
we learned all about making catalogs. We went to different places,
It was a hard way.
and we started out with one company that they didn't know how to put
We had to have a logo.
Yeah. They made the logo.
This was before eBay. Pre-eBay. We did it the hard way. Didn't have the computers set up for anything.
No, I had the computer right in
Yeah,
the
but
beginning.
people weren't doing online even.
Oh, no, not that. I had all my, I took the whole inventory and put it on a computer. And what the rows where they were located, and each row numbered. And so I had a pretty good catalog going, all of our, well, our first sales catalog was my computer printout. Before we ever actually made a catalog.
Just had a printer.
We put that out. And
I think I typed it first. Yeah, no, typed it.
you might have, but it was on the computer.
And then we inventory cleaned up the computer.
So who did you sell the catalogs to? How would people know that you have a catalog?
We tried advertising in magazines, gardening magazines.
Yeah, well, that was later, but still that was a way
Yeah.
of getting out into the public.
Yeah.
And that was in Rainbow South Bay, so it was looking at the beginning of this one with it. And so we started advertising there.
Do you remember some of the magazines you advertised in? Sunset,
No, it was
Better House and Garden. Okay, well, that's okay.
no, I really don't know. It's just.
So what was the
Flower
results?
garden was the only thing that comes.
So how the results was
Uh,
your expectations on the,
It wasn't worth the cost.
We probably,
I don't think we would have even.
I doubt if it was more than 10% of the catalogs we sent out. We had a lot of
Got
catalog
a lot of requests, but they didn't want flowers, they just wanted the catalog.
Yeah, people wanted
So they had
catalog.
$1 or $2 and get a catalog, but that's the last we'd hear from them. So it wasn't really helping our business. It was just costing us money because a catalog cost like $7.
And
And
so
one
the
print,
advertising.
and we couldn't sell them no more than a couple of them.
So we lost
So
money.
we lost money on it.
so what was the bulk of your sales? If that was only maybe 10% of your sales, like who was the bulk
Word
of
of
your?
mouth, they really did. The societies didn't want to pay anything, they could get free cuttings from the
Yeah, we
societies.
so we didn't.
So there was very little, maybe 3 or 4 with gardens and but. So it was just word, finally it started spreading. And we got more wholesale orders before we ever
We
got.
were really doing more wholesale than we were retail.
And what year are we talking about? From what year are we talking about?
88,
Yeah.
somewhere in there, 88, 89. And I don't know.
Like, could you name some of the countries that you're been selling to?
Well, like I say, there isn't, they don't have it. They go down to Australia,
South Africa.
yeah, South Africa, over to Russia, a lot in Germany,
A lot of
Belgium, Switzerland.
And these are nurseries or private individuals?
Private individuals mostly. But then, the wholesalers started, other nurseries started hearing about us. And,
We sold a lot to a nursery that was in business in Germany in the very beginning, and that was Margot from Germany. Had a pretty thriving ethnic business in Germany because she had a son who was a professional photographer, and he would take photographs that they loved, and they would put them in magazines over there, and people would go insane for them. They bought wholesale from us and sold them like crazy over there. She'd take our cuttings and cut them in half and then sell them over there. Because their standard cutting is about 3 inches, 3 to 4 inches over there. And she was just really doing well over there. And she would give us a list every year, what she wanted, and would cut them up and ship them over there. And it was working out beautifully until her employee got pregnant. And they have a law over there that says that if your employee gets pregnant, you have to pay them for, is it 2 years, 3 years? 2 or 3 years anyway. And you pay them full pay. And she couldn't for that length of time, and it bankrupted her. She went out of business over it. And so by that time, we were on our feet to the point where we could do pretty well without her. Oh, I knew what it was, the shows. We used to put catalogs out of the shows. And that was where we got most of our business.
people that would come to the
In
shows.
those days,
they
yeah.
were sitting around.
Yeah.
From out of town.
Yeah. A lot of it. We've sold more to Florida and Texas than San Diego, that's for sure. All over the United States.
So what are some of the best sellers in those days besides King Midas? Are there color favorites?
Well, the yellows.
Yellows.
The yellows were just starting
Yeah.
to come into their own when we started. And George.
Jennifer Ann was
Jennifer
just
Ann and Madeline.
really big.
And those were the first big yellows
Yeah.
that came out.
And Orange Coat.
Yeah. Basically,
George French, the yellow.
George French, those two hybridizes, Bessie Coke and George French, just about all of our.
Yeah, and Ressie was coming out with a lot of yellows at that point. And so was George, but Ressie had a lot of them. And we got to know Ressie pretty well. He was a great guy. And he was very generous with us. And George was very generous
Well,
with us.
it seems that most of the hybridizers would want to get their hybrids out on the market. And the best way is to let the nurseries have cuttings of them. And, there were all of the hybridizers. There was, George was the best known in San Diego. And, Dick Chadwick was next. In San Diego. And who else? Well, there was, the latest one who joined San Diego was Pat Sage, who's just now putting out some things. And then I was in Los Angeles, and Reggie Coke, and Alan's Rock, and Carol, have been very generous with us, giving us their new starts. And everyone was interested in seeing how her things would do in a different climate, because she's coastal and we were inland. And we found that her things were really good to grow. Anywhere. So,
They're just good, strong plants. Yeah.
so we would get new things through them. And, we would buy from Ethel every time she came up with a new one.
Tell them their business. That you wouldn't sell to us anymore.
She didn't like competition.
Yeah.
Probably typical. those days, so what would, you guys, or you ladies, I should say, excuse me, you ladies probably seen a lot of flowers, thousands of flowers throughout your history as nursery people. But so what would you say would be the perfect epi that you've seen?
I was really interested in oak varieties. We had a lot of oak varieties, and I really thought they were strong and beautiful.
And they had lasted so long, they must be.
Everyone was interested in the newest, latest one coming out, and I really thought that the old ones were good enough to stand on their own. So we carried a lot of oak varieties, several things that had been pretty much lost to people until we started carrying them. And yeah, a lot of the bean things and Boulevard on there, even the Knievel varieties.
They're still popular too.
Yeah, and they're still good, and people still want them. So we kind of brought back a lot of the old ones, and
Then we found out that after so the people that wanted those old ones bought them, and there was no more demand for them. People wanted new ones then. And so we had to start making the new ones.
Have you met Miss Monier and Porter? Were they never met those people?
We were newcomers.
But you know, so you never met. Well, personally, what would your favorite, at least for today, what would your favorites be? Not necessarily the best of them, but your personal favorite. And why?
The blooms, I would say that radiant fire stands up tall. The shade form and lasting quality, but it's not a good grower for us. There's a lot of rock at the bottom of the growth. But I would itself is one of the best. And lately, Dick Chadwick named one after my older daughter.
Which is?
Princess
Leslie. And that has become one of their favorites, and it seems that everyone that orders anything wants Princess Leslie included. And
it's hard to grow in when it's a coastal plant.
we don't grow small ones as easily as coastal people.
Is your daughter a princess?
Oh, aren't all daughters? Now, Rainbow is just named one after Michele.
Oh, check it.
Yeah, so there will be one in the market named Michele Davis.
Haven't seen it yet. You'll be surprised.
And talk about hybridizing. Have you ladies tried hybridizing yourself?
Everybody? I think everybody
Well,
tried.
When Charlie died, we had just gotten things going at the garage house. We hadn't taken any cuttings yet. And we went and moved to his house after the funeral, and he had seed pods on his tassel, planting tassel. And so we took the pods and started the seed. It produced two things. Charlie's Angel and Goodbye Charlie, are what we named his name. And that was our shot at hybridizing.
Well, we didn't have to.
We didn't hybridize it, but we grew. And it was enough to know that you have to have a lot of space and you have to have a lot of patience. It takes a lot of work. I admire the people who do hybridizing and the amount of patience that it takes to grow the things to bloom, because you throw out 90% of what you grow. And so you have to be dedicated to do it, and that's what I want to do now. Out of business, I'm gonna start hybridizing and see what I produce, see what comes up, because
What do you hope to?
I'm into Eppies now.
I mean, but what do you hope to get in when you said you're going to do your own thing? What do you hope to get? Like, do you have certain flower combinations?
Well, I'm not looking for a blue. There's never gonna be blue.
Tell us about that blue flower that you mentioned earlier.
There is no blue. There will never be a blue because they've done the DNA research and they know there is no blue. There is nothing blue in the genetic makeup of an epi, and there can't be a blue. So
But the closest one you mentioned earlier to me was,
it's a lavender. It's blue ray. But
it is.
blue ray. And it's not blue. I don't care what blues they put in the name.
It might be the
It's gonna
bluest
blue.
of flowers, but
Yeah.
it's not blue.
Yeah.
And so where is that plant now?
We sold it.
So,
We got it now.
but hybridizing is also rewarding. I mean, there is a lot of reward to doing it. I'm sure Evelyn is very proud of the things that she's registered. And the same with Ressie and George and Jerry Madigetz and his thing is orange. Jerry likes oranges, and his best things are oranges. And I don't know what I would shoot for. I really don't know what I would shoot for. Like Evelyn, it would be clean growth. It's hard to say big growth because in East County you don't get a lot of big growth. You get fast growth, which is also narrow growth.
Well, what about the flower itself? Would you go for multi-petal, size, color?
Well, I'm not real picky, everybody knows that. But Radiant Fire, Princess Linda Form flower is, I don't know, it holds up better, it lasts longer. You can hold Princess Linda for 4 days and it'll still be a good flower, even in East County. Same with Radiant Fire, it just lasts and lasts and lasts. Radiant Light was the parent plant of Radiant Fire. It also lasts a long time and is a good flower, but it also, that's where Radiant Fire got its yucky growth, is from Radiant Light. So, you know, your parents are going to come through, but Appassionata is another of Radiant Light's offspring, and it grows clean, and it's a compact formal flower, and it's beautiful. It's well worth it. And so those kind of flowers are what I like the best, but I'm not real picky, so I like multi-petal flowers too, and I like crossing 50s. I like
The recurring, green, not stringy, but
you like to see them looks.
no, not the,
Yeah, it's the recurring
but
back.
it likes to,
Oh, you like the ribbon?
yeah, the ribbon,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, see, it's,
quite different than,
I'm sure you thought about
you
this.
like Eppies.
Yeah. Have you thought, what would be the first name that you would call your first epi?
I don't want to say it because then somebody else can use it.
I have a lot of names that have been used.
Right.
We're
You
not
don't,
going to
you
tell
want,
them.
you don't want to share one or two?
No.
Like Jimmy?
No, I haven't got anything off the top of my tongue, but I do have a lot of names listed that I kept track of.
Are there other people you want to mention that just for whatever they influenced you or maybe contributed something to the epi community in general? We're still in that kind of subject too.
Well, first of all, Jim has been a silent partner in this whole thing, and he has done donkey work all these years. He had his own job, and he would come home and I'd make him graft on his day off. I would make him graft on his day off. And people think it's a simple thing to graft, and even if you're good at grafting, there are plants that only last a year on graft. They'll go down every single year, year after year, you're redoing those grafts. Other things have lasted 15 years. years. There's no way to know when you put something on graft how long it's actually going to last. But he's been right there grafting all these years and filling the kerosene cans, putting the plastic on, building shade houses, and lifting the plastic every morning and taking it down at night, getting the mix and mixing the mix. And he's had to do a lot of work and he doesn't get much glory for it. So that's one person I'd like to acknowledge.
And not only that, it was because of his help that we decided to go up with him. And because we couldn't do it without his help.
Yeah, there is no way we could not have done it without his help.
And when we tried paying someone else to help, they
They
didn't
didn't
do
care.
it. Yeah, they'd break the equipment. Just
Do a
didn't
lousy
care what they
job.
were doing.
So is Jimmy gonna be part of your hybridizing?
He likes to grow things, and he's kind of, I think, more interested than he lets on as far as how they're going to come out. So he helps. He likes to grow things, so he'll do it too.
So what advice would you think you'd give to someone that might kind of get the inkling to start a nursery business?
Well, the first thing is you better love what you're doing because we didn't get rich doing it. Nowadays, there's the internet, and it makes a big difference. It makes a big
They
difference.
do have no scruples and don't mind charge for it.
No, it really does make a difference because sooner or later down the road, you're going to be known for having things that aren't right or things that don't grow.
Or on the other hand, some things that are good.
And yeah,
We've heard of one
it
person
comes
that
back.
has a good reputation in eBay. But there's several others that don't have a good reputation.
Yeah, so you get out of it what you think. And if you don't love it, you shouldn't do it. You shouldn't do it just for the money because it's the kind of hobby that you need to enjoy doing.
It'll pay for itself.
There's a lot of physical labor involved in growing animals.
When we started, we thought we were getting on a part-time thing. Epi only bloomed in the spring.
Yeah, I thought it was gonna be seasonal.
And we thought,
That didn't
oh
work.
good, we won't have to be worried about this stuff the rest of the year. Well, we found out that you
Well,
have to,
our catalog is the reason we really worked the hardest off season.
we have to get the catalog ready, get the pictures going, get the whole thing put together, take it to be printed. Not only that, we had to start all the cuttings so that they would be ready for the next year.
You have to
there
know
was
ahead.
more to do
What you're
during
coming
the
out
rest of the year than there was during the spring.
From the time you put something on graft, you probably got 2 years before you can market it. So you have to know what the public's gonna want when you graft it 2 years down the road. So if you're not selecting things that are good to grow, that are good colors that people are gonna really like, flower shapes, all the different things to consider. When someone walks into your nursery and says, I've never grown these before, what are the easiest ones to grow? You don't wanna say, well, I don't have anything that's easy to grow. You've gotta have things for novices, you've gotta have things for people that are bored easily and have to have the newest and latest ones. You've gotta have a lot of knowledge is what you've gotta have about how the plants grow and what the flowers look like and what to tell people when they wanna know from you.
Well, I think one of the things that has made our operation successful has been the fact that we can tell people, we give them the answers to these things. They want to know if they'll grow well in their area. Well, we've found out over the years, that some things just won't grow in the heat, some things won't grow where it freezes. So you have to know the individual flowers before you can tell them these things. And so we have, I think, established a reputation for giving them the right answers.
So don't quit your day job, right?
Right. Definitely.
Okay, why don't we end this as in Herschel Barbara Walters? How would you like to be remembered, Michele?
talk to Michelle, because she knows everything I don't.
But you are the phone man.
So I have to call them back and tell them what you have said.
No, you're the one that has to talk to them, you're the one they talk to.
That's what I mean, I have to ask you and then call them back, because you know things I don't. Michelle's working closer with the A's, mainly, I think because she has patience with them, and also lives on the property where the nursery is. I live where the computer and the phones are, so I do more of that. And these the actual flowers are, even though I like them as much as she does. Excuse me. Anyway, the two of us make a good team, and we have enjoyed the years with all its problems and all its work.
Well, on behalf of the Epiphyllum Society, and I'm sure the Epiphyllum community everywhere, we want to thank you for taking part of our 65th anniversary. Again, we're talking to Michele and Jean of Ray Davis Nursery in Santee, California. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
What year did they
30 years.
What?
What year did they go?
2007. They were really done in 2005. Between 2005 and 2007, they were just basically liquidating what was left before Michele moved again.
We were looking for nurseries at that point.
They're still around, both Linda and Michele. I'll show them a picture if you, if you're on Facebook, I'll try to post their pictures on Facebook tomorrow or the next day. So I visited them, both Ken and I visited them about 2 years ago. So, and they both have pictures of Epiphyllum that I believe, who are they now? The guys from,
Rainbow?
huh? From Rainbow, yeah, name,
Jerry and,
Chuck and Jerry.
Chuck and Jerry.
Chuck and Jerry,
Yeah,
yeah.
they name, Eppies after them, so. I'll put some,
They still have Epiphyllums though, right?
Yeah, they had their own
Yeah,
Eppies.
just their own collection.
Michelle's down to 100 plants. I talked to her today. And she's looking to even cut down a little bit more. She is doing a little bit of hybridizing, not much. As you saw that was back in 2005 when she told Jim that, and she hasn't really done anything since, but she's got a couple that she's interested in that she may register here in the next year or two. Michele Davis, the pink one that I showed you that's named after her, for us in this area, it grows really well. It's not a really popular one. It's one of those flowers that when people see photos of it, they're like, oh, that's cute, that's pretty. When they see it in person, then it's like, oh, I want that. Princess Linda, it's a pain in the neck to grow. I suggest don't bother. I used to grow it, and I finally said, I've had enough. I'm not doing anymore, so I refuse to grow it now.
It's a small one, yeah?
It's a small to medium.
Oh, yeah.
The problem with Princess Linda is it does what a lot of eppies that have been put on the graft do. It will grow well, and then all of a sudden it'll bloom, and then you'll turn around, and within like 2 months the plant's dead.
Yeah, that's what's happened with mine.
And you'll find a lot of eppies that tend to do that all the time. Once you trace back their lineage to the distribution point, you find out they were put on grafts. That's why nowadays I don't graft anything. I think grafting is kind of one of the things that really we should have never done in the first place. But back when they did it, back when Russie Cope did it, when Rainbow did it, Ethel Hurst did it, they didn't know any better. They didn't have the gene testing that we have now And so we know better. We know what it does to the plants now. So I don't think you'll ever see nurseries like that anymore, where 90% of what they're growing is grown on grafts. It just doesn't make sense to do anymore. And the biggest thing about grafting now, and quite honestly, is the fact that the variegation virus is transmitted very easily through grafting. So in the testing for it, the testing for it is just very recent. As far as within just like the last 10 or 15 years, have they even been able to test for it? They finally did the gene tracking in it to figure out, they call it virus X, is what they're calling it. You'll see on the Facebook groups and stuff like that, you'll see a lot of the Vietnamese and Thailand and stuff like that, they're grafting onto dragon fruit. That's an absolute, if you ever see anybody grafting onto dragon fruit, my number one recommendation is don't buy it. Because dragon fruit is extremely susceptible to variegation virus. And the testing to do it is about $5,000 a test. You know darn well nobody is spending $5,000 to test their grafting stock. And once you graft that plant, once you graft into that, if it's got the virus, everything that you grow off of that graft, you're transmitting that virus. And the bad thing is that variegation virus can lay dormant for years, and you never see it, and then all of a sudden it pops up, and that plant has been in your collection this whole entire time. So it's something that was done in the past that as we go into the future, it's something that we should be getting away from as much as we can. So, but any other questions? What she means by black frost is that basically they just had a real heavy freezing spell for the winter. Like for us, most of the time we don't see it. I think the last freeze we had up in this area was, gosh, 10, 15 years ago. I lost quite a few plumeria trees to that, but didn't lose hardly any epis for it. But that's what she means by black frost. It's just a real hard freeze.
Things with smooth leaves, like vermilions and stuff, because I moved to a place that had a 3-day frost, and I think it's referring to everything turns black. It's mush.
Mm-hmm.
All the cells have burst, like putting a fruit in the freezer, and the cells break, and then you come out and the sun comes up, and all those green variegated vermilions and orchids and things, they're mushy, and they're like a gray black.
Yeah, because that's what it did to the plumerias. The plumeria trees, they just within just a couple days, the branches just turned black. So it's basically a hard freeze. And what's funny is now I was talking to Michele today about it, and I said, well, yeah, if you were doing it now, you wouldn't have to cover in plastic. I said, because now they make freeze cloth. And basically you could put freeze cloth over the whole thing and leave it all winter long and never have to remove it because the air flows through it, but yet it keeps the cold out. And I was laughing with her. I said, yeah, it's funny is you would never thought in the nursery industry you'd have a product that you can readily buy to protect you from freezing, but you can't find pots anywhere.
Yeah, I know. Can't find plastic pots anymore.
Yeah, plastic pots now are insane. It's the plastic community after COVID. All the manufacturing has left California. All the companies that even pre-COVID, every single manufacturer of nursery pots that was here in California is now gone. There's not a single manufacturer left in California that manufactures nursery pots.
Somewhere else?
Majority of pots now are coming out of Europe. Yep. And unfortunately, because Ken and I are running into this because we have to repot the Pinnacle, so I've been trying to find a place that's going to have pots that we can buy. And the problem is that everything's now thin wall plastic.
Very thin.
And the problem with that is our plants get so heavy you can't use it.
And they don't want to
Yeah.
Even
Even those standard ones, they're not being made on the West Coast. I'm sure most of you that have grown for a while know McConkey. They were one of our go-to suppliers. They're completely out of business.
Their old catalog.
Yeah,
I'm
they're
looking at the prices
completely
going,
out of business.
wow.
Yep.
I think Veranda's got.
Farron was our local one. They were out of Chino. They actually manufactured their own pots. They got bought out by a T&R Lumber. T&R Lumber bought them and did away with almost all of their product line. I went to T&R Lumber last year. They just got bought out by a European company. And now the problem is the because the pots are being manufactured overseas, that in order to buy, they want you to buy huge quantities because they have to ship it in by boat. And realistically, for what we do, it's very hard. I think what did I say, Ken? We had to buy an entire pallet, which was 5,000 pots.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was like an eight.
Indiana.
Yeah, it was like an $8,000 purchase just for one size pot, and it's like you can't realistically.
Be tripping over them for years.
Yeah, I mean they would. By the time we would use up that many pots, they'd probably be so brittle they're useless. So yeah, pots are just becoming a real nightmare for those of us that need these heavier duty pots.
She mentioned, because I'm kind of new with this, Epi collections, she mentioned inland plants and coastal plants. Is that a real thing? Or
Absolutely.
Is it?
Evelyn, and then she mentioned Evelyn used to send her cuttings. Evelyn did the same thing to me. Evelyn, when she thought she was going to register a particular one, she would give me the cuttings and have me grow them up here so that I could report back to her and tell her, hey, it doesn't like the heat. It's like for me, yellow tang, hedgehog, they absolutely can't stand hot weather. My yellow tang right now, it looks good. As soon as the summer heat comes, it's almost gonna die on me. I thought I had Yavapai County figured out. It was looking great. During last summer, we had about 6 weeks at our place where it was 90 plus, and I no longer have Yavapai County.
She hybridized near the marina, like in.
Yes,
Marina.
Evelyn was almost right on the water.
Yeah.
So what happens is those plants that are grown and hybridized in that microclimate, they're used to that constant moisture. So that because the epiphyllums in the wild they don't grow in soil. They're epiphytic. They grow up in trees. The nutrients come from the little rotted leaves and stuff that get caught into the nooks and crannies of the trees. So a lot of their moisture comes from the air, not from being watered. So when plants grow like that, and then you bring them up and to the hotter climates, and it's drier, some of them just absolutely don't like it. Meadowlark is one. Meadowlark, if you grow meadowlark down by the ocean or in San Diego in cooler climates, you get these flowers that are this big and it's absolutely gorgeous, and you're walking out of a morning and just drooling over how gorgeous it looks. You grow it up here in the hotter climates, it's about that big, and you look at it and go, okay, it's just another yellow. You don't think it's anything spectacular, but get it in the cooler weather and it's amazing. So yeah, there are certain plants that grow much better on coast versus inland.
I have another question.
Sure.
They mentioned they started doing 50s crosses. What does that mean?
50s crosses was a Russie Coke cross. Basically, he numbered his crosses. That was his 50th cross.
Oh.
And a lot of those, like American Sweetheart, what else? Come on, Ken, help me out.
I can't remember. But aren't they all grown from the same seed pod?
Yes, they all come from the same seed pod, which was his 50th cross.
And yet there was a diversity in the plants, but is
Yeah.
that the one that has the corkscrew growth a lot?
They have thin African Queen's one, although the real African Queen you'll probably never find. But yeah, like if you just let them grow out, they'll put out the growth that's about the size of 2 fingers, and it'll kind of twist as it grows. There's a bunch of other ones, and for some reason I'm drawing a blank on them. I used to be able to rattle them off like crazy, but you know I'm getting old.
Basically, you got real lucky, you got a whole bunch of good flowers out of one.
Yeah, and varied colors too. I mean, the color range, you got pinks. There was even some yellows out of it. Multicolored plants. I think probably the most famous out of that cross would be American Sweetheart.
It was Ruby Snowflake by Tassel, the cross.
Was that was the cross? Okay. And anybody knows Ruby Snowflake and Tassel are both pain in the necks.
I've
Ruby,
seen that, yes.
yeah.
Seen that, yes.
So, any other questions? Now's your chance.
That was good.
All right. Thanks for coming, everyone.
Has everybody signed in?